If any country tries to invade these Spanish cities, NATO will not be obligated to fight with Spain. As incredible as it may seem, even though Spain has been in NATO for more than 42 years, the truth is that there is a legal void in the defense of these two cities. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as its name suggests, defends the territories of its members in the Atlantic, America, and continental Europe. The Canary Islands or the Balearic Islands, for example, are completely included in the defense treaty. But Spain is the only country in Europe that has cities in mainland Africa. Ceuta and Melilla are home to more than 160,000 Spaniards. If they were a single city, they would have a larger population than some provincial capitals like Logroño, Badajoz, Salamanca, or Lerida, due to the geographical conditions imposed by the treaty. In a hypothetical scenario, no NATO country would be obligated to defend Ceuta and Melilla from a Moroccan attack. Based on this premise, you must be prepared for the worst, and, of course, the Spanish army must be capable of defending Ceuta and Melilla on its own. Morocco has already expressed on numerous occasions its position regarding these cities, and in the eyes of Rabat, they are part of the Moroccan sphere. And if they could, in the future, they would try to take them. So in this video, we are going to see how the defense of Ceuta and Melilla would be planned, what the war scenario would be in that case, and how Morocco has it more complicated than it seems. Stay until the end of the video to discover the answer to all these questions. If you're into military history and interested in the Spanish army and geopolitics, stick around, leave a like, and subscribe for future updates. Now, let's continue. Surely an invasion would be preceded by some hybrid warfare tactics to confuse and destabilize the enemy. A massive migratory assault on the fences, for example, as occurred in Melilla in 2022 or in Ceuta in 2021, a blackout like 2 weeks ago, or a cyber attack are tactics that would surely precede the attacks in both cities. Let's see how Spanish defense would have. Melilla is a city of 12.3 kilometers squared with 87,000 inhabitants. It should be noted that in this population, 13.25% of its inhabitants are Moroccan, so while they might not take part in the conflict, it's not crazy to think that some might not participate in defense efforts or even act as a fifth column within Melilla, facilitating the invasion from the inside. The city is the farthest of the two, 175 kilometers from Ceuta and 350 kilometers from the peninsula. It shares 12 kilometers of border with Morocco, separated by a fence between 6 and 10 meters high. The main defense force would be the General Command of Melilla, which has around 3,000 troops who are quite well equipped, and also include irregular legionnaires. They have multiple vehicles such as Bamtokos, 120mm heavy mortars, anti-aircraft guns, and Spike LR anti-tank missiles. Additionally, the city has between 12 and 18 artillery pieces, about 10 Pizarro model armored vehicles, and the jewel of defense, about 10 Leopard A battle tanks. Additionally, Melilla has a port and an airport, with a runway long enough to accommodate transport aircraft like the AM. Ceuta, for its part, has 83,000 inhabitants, one area of 18.5 kilometers squared. Although it's larger than Melilla, it lacks an airport, but makes up for it with its proximity to the peninsula, just 15 kilometers away. It shares 8 kilometers of border with Morocco, separated again by the Ceuta fence. A significant fact is that around 40% of the population is Muslim, the vast majority of whom are Moroccan. And this has a very important additional implication that we will discuss later. The General Command of CEUTA would be responsible for defending the city. In the first instance, it would have around 3,000 troops, equipped with tactical weaponry in terms of light vehicles and anti-tank defense similar to Melilla. However, CEUTA's great asset is its artillery corps. Apart from having light and heavy mortars, the anti-aircraft defense is governed by 12 Oerlikon cannons, capable of firing up to 4,000 meters effectively and equipped with ammunition capable of destroying missiles and drones, as well as, of course, fighter jets. Additionally, as part of the anti-aircraft arsenal, there are several short-range missiles in the Mistral style. But the true jewel of CEUTA is its 8 SEAC 155 buses, capable of firing projectiles up to 40 kilometers away. Morocco's not-so-easy role. Analyzing now Morocco's proposed attack, the offensive would likely be initially led by around 10,000 troops. In this initial phase, they would have dozens of artillery pieces, combat tanks like the T-72, and infantry fighting vehicles like the BPM-2. Of course, it could rely on some command and divisions specialized in the use of drones. Now then, what would the attack look like? The primary objective would be to knock down or create significant breaches in the fences of both cities, so targeted bombings could initiate the operations. Spain, if it anticipates it in advance, may have mined the surroundings with the aim of causing more casualties in the assaults. In the case of Melilla, it would make sense for Morocco to position its artillery on Mount Garugu to bombard it, as it did in the Rif War almost a century ago. But wait a moment, is Spain just standing still, expectant to be attacked and doing nothing? The size of the cities and the present garrisons allow Spain to focus on defense without suffering too many casualties. The Moroccans, fearing a large-scale war of much longer duration, would hold back their best armored vehicles, making the Spanish defenses even more effective, as there would be no Abrams, at least as long as the attacks on CEUTA and Melilla were not conceived as a blitz operation. In the case of CEUTA, they would think twice before bombing it, because, as we mentioned earlier, 40% of the population is Moroccan. And finally, the CEUTA Estudiantil batteries would immediately target the Tétouan airport and, above all, the most advanced and expensive infrastructure in the entire Kingdom of Morocco, the Tangier port. Surely, just the attack on this port would already make the entire operation to conquer CEUTA and Melilla not worth it economically. The army could also make use of the new Spainsat in communications satellite, which has been in orbit since last January 30th, to avoid having to rely on the intelligence of its Western allies. On the other hand, regarding reinforcements, if the cities were not taken immediately, Morocco could mobilize many more armed forces on the ground due to the geographical conditions. However, the Spanish base is located at sea. The navy would mobilize quickly, and within a few hours, the ships docked in Cartagena and Rota would appear off the African coasts. Meanwhile, the aerial duel, at first, would be more or less on equal terms. The LHD Juan Carlos I could begin the landing of reinforcements on land, and, if necessary, the Spaniards could afford to advance slightly, especially in CEUTA, to not only target the port and the entire city of Tangier, but also the international airport itself. We are not taking into account that Morocco, in the south and east, has potential enemies such as Western Sahara and the Algerian Republic, two entities that could retaliate in the event of an invasion against Spain. In conclusion, CEUTA and Melilla are two heavily fortified cities and geographically very well positioned in a total war. The Spanish Navy as a differentiating element would prevail at sea, and then the long-term land battles would be another story. However, the economic and international consequences for Morocco would be so great that it surely wouldn't be worth invading Ceuta and Melilla. Do you think Morocco will ever dare to invade the cities, or, on the contrary, will Spain be able to deter them in the long term? I would love to hear your opinion on this topic in the comments, and of course, if you liked the video, I would kindly ask you to leave your like and subscribe if you want more content of this style in the future. Of course, as always, you can check the sources of all this content in the description.
Oh, 是是是高兴。